Do you expect that same level of service that you get if somebody walked into your door than if they sent you a message on Instagram? And the answer is always yes. And then I tell people, okay, if you think that, then I have to remind you that these followers are your customers. And we are spending every day with your customers, engaging them, monitoring what they're doing on social media, engaging other people that could potentially become customers, finding influencers that might talk about our brand that could eventually their fans become customers and then follow our channel. And if we grow our channel, that means we're growing our funnel. So this goes far beyond just what a definition of a follower is. In my opinion, this is customer retention at its finest and customer acquisition into the funnel by measuring it by, i.e., more followers, but making sure those followers are quality.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, your go-to guide to solving your biggest marketing agency challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what agencies go through, from turning clients to tackling tech and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing agencies like you going through many of the same struggles that you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling agencies like yours. Now, we've all been there, that awkward meeting where a client looks you dead in the eyes and asks, "So, what exactly am I getting for all this social media spend?" Your stomach drops as you scramble to explain engagement rates to someone who just wants to know about sales. It's like trying to pay your rent with Monopoly money. The value is clear to you, but they're just not buying it. Today, we're cutting through that confusion with Scott Emelfarb, founder and CEO of Fresh Content Society, social media whisperer, and ROI translator extraordinaire. This is the guy who turned a desperate tweet from a struggling deli into a 1,500% sales increase during the pandemic. Scott has cracked the code on speaking the language of social media value to everyone from skeptical CEOs to hungry CMOs to overwhelmed social media managers. And he doesn't just get results, he makes sure everyone in the room understands exactly why those results matter. So whether you're tired of blank stares during client presentations or just want to sleep better, knowing you can defend your social strategy to anyone with a budget, today's episode is your new secret weapon. Hey, Scott, welcome to the show.
What an intro, Mike. Thank you very much. And I'm very much looking forward to this conversation.
As am I. This is something we've been talking about at Agorapulse, honestly, for about 2 years, trying to help educate social media managers that there is such a thing as social media ROI. They can do more than just report on what we would typically call vanity metrics. But I'd love if you could start by just telling us about a time when you faced some of that significant pushback from a client about social media ROI and how that experience shaped your approach to communicating value.
Yeah, I mean, this really dates back as far back as I can take when businesses were allowed to promote themselves through social media, starting with a Facebook page. Back in the day, we have to remember, right? And I'm talking close to 2007, 6 time frame. Posting on Facebook on behalf of your business was considered free. It was free promotion. You were able just to post for free. And I think that baseline and that foundation really set a bad precedence for how social media marketing really started and what the value social media marketing offered businesses. So fast forward, right, over the years, working with many different clients, many different businesses, ranging from Fortune 500 companies to the great case study example that you shared, Mike, with Maddie's Deli. And ROI, as it relates to social media, is very confusing across the board at all levels within an organization, whether you're the owner of Maddie's Deli and or if you are the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Now, what I have found most interesting, and I'm going to get to the actual case study or example, but now we have realized that social media does have an ROI. And so every client that I talk to, or I have worked with, or FCS has worked with, we're very clear on communicating what ROI is even available. And for us to be able to identify what that ROI is based on what the client's needs are, allows us to be very clear on what we can control, right? And what the opportunity is. So, one great example of that would be, if we wanna just use Maddie's Deli as the example, was after many years, I would say we've been working with Maddie's Deli since 2015. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, we spent 5 years working on a strategy to build community, more followers, more people to engage with us, more people to see our post, getting other people to see our post, other influencers to come in. And when the pandemic hit, we were able to leverage our community to monetize by asking for help because we were struggling I say we as the business, but the owner at Maddie's Deli was dealing with some significant business issues and challenges in terms of revenue. And by cultivating a community, we were able then to ask for help ultimately. And people showed up and they showed up in droves. And we had lines wrapped around the block within, I would say, 2 hours of when the tweet dropped or when the post dropped on social media. So from there in 2020, I realized, oh, one post can change everything. But the only way you can monetize, well, not the only way, one of the ways that you can monetize is by having a actual community that wants to support you.
That makes a lot of sense. In one of our other shows, Hospitality Edition, I talked to Potter's Resorts, who similarly during the pandemic, this is a seaside resort on the southeast side of England. Who obviously they had to shut down March of
Uh,
2020. They had to literally send people home. They had to call people who had reservations for the next few days or weeks and say, "Sorry, we have to close down. You can't come in." And because they'd built such a terrific community like Mayonnaise, 80% of the reservations said, "Keep our money.
right. They
Just
just
hold on
gave
to it. We'll come back in, a week, a month, whatever."
yeah,
And it obviously ended up being like, I don't know, 6 or 8 months before they could even reopen, but when they did, the community was there for them. So I love that approach. Now you mentioned developing methods for actually articulating social media value to different stakeholders. Can you break down some of those key differences in what a business owner versus a CMO versus another social media manager, how they each want to hear about ROI differently?
absolutely. Okay, so let's start from the top level. When we think about ROI, right? The 2 buckets of ROI that we can accomplish on social media is making money and building community. Those are the 2 buckets, make money, build community, and those both could work together. Now, in order for us to either make money or build community, there are really 2 ways to achieve that: paid ads and or organic social, which is earning it. Organic social, right, really helps focus on this journey, which is much longer to the make money bucket, but it's the journey of earning and building a community that you can monetize, but that journey is much longer to get to, like Manny's Deli and the Potters, if I'm saying that brand name
Yeah, Potters.
correctly.
Mhm.
Same idea is I guarantee it didn't happen overnight of them building that community,
Yeah.
right? But you can leverage paid media as well to help make money quicker on social through Meta ads or TikTok ads or YouTube ads, and they all work together. So if I'm talking to a CEO, the CEO lives in this bucket of make money.
Yeah.
They're in the business of that. Now I have to do a decent job to get to this bucket. Now for us to get to this bucket, On the organic side, which is what we specialize in, is we have to take the earned approach, which is we have to work on building community to get to this horizon. So in order for us to get to this horizon, we have to build community. And when we build community, there is social media, as you know, KPIs that help us identify that we're on track to building a community of supporters, of people that want to buy from us, support us, engage with us, and be part of our journey. Now, if I'm talking to a director of digital marketing, director of social marketing, this bucket of make money is obviously and always the most important at any business. But as the director of social or digital or both, they're really spending time in the brand bucket, in my brand awareness bucket. And
Mm.
for us to get more brand awareness, right, they care about the community building metric. So more followers is a great ROI KPI. More impressions, more engagement rate, all the wonderful KPIs across platforms that indicate to us that we're on track by to build community, right? That's going to help increase our brand awareness. So depending on who you're talking to, we can explain the ROI, but in a much more simplistic way to somebody that just wants to focus on community building, but the person that's responsible for dollars ultimately has to be really told, "You can take the accelerated paid path, but there's a long-term sustainable path called community building that you can focus on."
I love this. Honestly, it's a shift in mindset because you're talking about the same thing that a lot of people have been talking about with social media for a decade now, which is, well, we need more followers.
Yeah,
But it's not the same perspective because it's not the same followers. It's not just a number of followers, it's building community, which of course is the same metric. But by saying community, what you're implying there is these are the right followers. These are people who are bought into our brand. They're the kind of people that would buy from us, that we would want to have as customers, that we would want to have relationships with. They're not just a number from a foreign country that we paid for, which is the trap a lot of people get into. So I hope folks listening, you kind of understood that nuance there. And if you didn't, go back and listen to that segment again, because Scott really well articulated how to focus on the things that as a social media manager you need to focus on and are going to reflect well the things that you're doing, that they aren't gonna have that one-to-one correlation. You're not gonna necessarily see the money coming in just because you ticked up a follower count number. Are there specific frameworks, though, or anything that you find really effective when speaking to owners or CEOs who, maybe they're not well-versed in social media at all? They may not even have an active LinkedIn profile, and like you said, they're focused on the bottom line?
totally. So you said something that really resonated with me is that we're building quality followers. We're earning it. Earned media, right, in social media is quality followers, real followers. And I tell owners or CEOs all the time, if a customer, let's just say Manny's Deli as the example, or the resort. If a customer walks into your business and that person has a question about your facility, your service, your food, your amenities, how would you expect somebody to respond back to that person? And the answer is always, I would expect for someone to take their time and explain and make sure that they educate the customer on what we do, who we are, and why they should buy from us. And they understand that philosophy of someone walking in the door. So now I take them on the journey of, now you have a customer that follows you on Instagram and they send you a direct message and they ask you a question about a service, an amenity, some of the food, or whatever the case may be. Do you expect that same level of service that you get if somebody walked into your door than if they sent you a message on Instagram? And the answer is always yes. And then I tell people, okay, if you think that, that I have to remind you that these followers are your customers. And we are spending every day with your customers, engaging them, monitoring what they're doing on social media, engaging other people that could potentially become customers, finding influencers that might talk about our brand that could eventually their fans become customers and then follow our channel. And if we grow our channel, that means we're growing our funnel. So this goes far beyond just what a definition of a follower is. This, in my opinion, this is customer retention at its finest and customer acquisition into the funnel by measuring it by, i.e., more followers, but making sure those followers are quality.
Yeah, absolutely. So, frameworks for executives.
Frameworks for executives, here's the reality. When I think about if I take them down a model, a feedback loop, right? I take them down the model of we have to first reach people, we have to then engage our people, then we have to find insights on our customers, take those insights back, and those insights will then fuel more growth for not only the channel, but for the business.
Mm,
So I take them through a framework of them understanding that getting from reach all the way to action is a long loop on social media. This is not, but my explanation of then going in the retention bucket of engagement, the middle of the funnel that we spend in is really the framework that I try to explain to them that that's really the priority is the actual connection with your customers online every day.
got it. Got it. Now, I know, like, if I'm the social media manager for one of these organizations, social media is my world, and that's where my focus is the most important thing to me. But the higher up the food chain we go, in terms of executives, the
Mm.
less important social media becomes. I have yet to meet a CEO of any organization where social media is the most important part of their organization. That just isn't heard of. So for some of those like mid-level CMOs, some of those marketing directors, how would you position social media's value relative to the other marketing channels that they're responsible for?
Can I answer that with a question back to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Is there any other marketing channel that allows you to connect, engage, and promote to your customers every single day?
Nope, not for long. You could try it with email, but that won't last very long. You'll burn that bridge if you're emailing every single day, so
So I
yeah.
cannot think, right, of a better way to reach new customers, build more trust for more lifetime value from your current customers and getting insights from your customers to be able to share back, like, ongoing. You put up a billboard, what are you really what information are you getting back?
Yeah,
What do you
it's
think?
nothing. Absolutely nothing from a billboard. I'm laughing because I used to buy billboard ads. I've been in marketing and advertising that long, and, what a crapshoot there. Will anybody see it? Will anybody call the number? You have no idea. Half the time, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Same with Yellow Pages ads, even radio spots. Those were always one-way communication. But you're
Yeah,
right. If I'm creating an engaging social media presence, obviously it can't be just like this spray and pray approach. It's got to
yeah,
work. We have to get some engagement, but that will in turn educate us on what's working, what's not, what topics are resonating, how are we developing new followings, growing followings on different channels, how are different forms of content performing on different channels. Yeah, that's all a feedback loop that few other channels can give you.
yeah, and so I find that insight engine to be one of the
Mhm.
most powerful, channel or outcomes from social media because 'cause you're not just getting insight about, your own channel, but you get insight on your customer, you get insight on the industry, you get insight on it, like, who's who, right? The conversation of what's happening, and I think you said something earlier, and I kinda wanna I wanna ask you what your thoughts are on, like,
Mhm.
the optics of a CEO, right, that maybe doesn't believe in social media. And then I look at, the Chili's CEO, and when the Chili's, news came out that I forgot, I won't be able to quote the number, but their sales went up because of the coverage and the social media buzz that was generated from, I think, their sampler appetizer, and then the Chili CEO was doing a lot of media that was basically shouting back to the social media as a big contributor to the, bottom line, for sales. So, like, I think that wave is shifting as you and I wanna know, do you think that the mindset is shifting, on the importance of social media to CEOs? Or no?
I think what's happening is more and more social media managers are able to better articulate what social media is doing for their brand because enough of us are having these kinds of conversations. 5 years ago, there was almost no capability to articulate anything. Social media managers were not tracking links at all, so they had no insight into any kind of traffic or results that they might be driving. But that has shifted between, just greater education of organizations top to bottom, more and more CEOs being active on social media and setting an example, right, for other CEOs. Like you mentioned, Instagram, you got Adam Mosseri on, their own platform almost every single day with videos and answering questions and being very transparent. And obviously not every CEO can do what Adam is doing, but still it's a really great example of the kind of presence you could have. And I imagine that's having a positive impact on professional marketers' perceptions of Instagram because they're seeing how it works and they're learning how it works direct from that person's mouth, so to speak. So I agree. Yeah, there's definitely a shift in perception.
And I also think, if we look back, like, at, like, the inception of social for brands to have a presence and market themselves, the people that started in social media when it first came out are now really becoming directors, leaders, CMOs, and what's happened, honestly, really think since COVID is that the value of social media, eh, community building, like, getting more followers is, like, something businesses want. Before it was a joke.
Yeah,
Right? They are vanity metrics, technically speaking, but on social media, if they're the right followers, they're really your customers,
right,
and that goes deep in terms of, like, how much responsibility one would have to be able to engage and manage a community that has 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 500,000 people. So I think the people that are becoming leaders in the marketing space and the generation that is coming up, I really believe that, like, the value of social media hasn't even really connected with everybody yet. And I think there's still, to your point, 5 years ago, we've been having this conversation, right? On how do you define ROI and what does a follower mean and how does that translate to a dollar and how do you actually, like, prove sale ROI between, like, having followers in an engaged community, but it's there. Like, those are your customers, that's retention, that's marketing, like, just an email list. If you had an email marketing manager, it's like
right. Yeah.
same sort of concept, right? But, like, I feel like to bring it back is the perception of community building has more value today than it did ever before.
That makes a lot of sense. I think your point about, long time social media community managers, folks who've been doing this now for maybe a decade, they've moved on and they've moved up. And so they've brought with them in those positions a much greater understanding, a deeper understanding. But for, to your point, the folks in the younger generation they're managing the TikTok and the Instagram accounts and the X accounts today. How do you help them translate what they're doing, what they're seeing into language that can be understood by the C-suite?
hard to do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Oh,
have
come on.
I I don't have because here's the thing, the only way you can get to understand that level is going through it enough on the strategic side. And if you don't spend a lot of time on the strategy side, you're too much on the execution side, it's hard to translate. It's just speaking a different language, I believe. Like from a creator and a strategist or a creator and an analytics person, like I'm more creative brain than I am like analytic brain, for example. And I if I looked at a spreadsheet, it would make me nauseous, you know? So I would think like hard for people that don't have enough strategic experience to be able to really wrap their heads around the true value of what like the work that we're doing every day.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, though, the onus is on the marketer to teach themselves the language they need to know in order to communicate to other stakeholders in the organization if they expect the other stakeholders in the organization to understand their language, social media language, marketing language, whether it's email, social media, whatever channel you're talking about. If you expect other stakeholders to understand that language, you're not going to be successful. Folks, we're talking with Scott Emelfarb about the importance of being able to track and then communicate the ROI and value of the social media work that you're doing for clients or within your own organization. And I've got several more questions you won't want to miss. But first, let's make sure that you've got the best tool in place to track your social media ROI.
I actually can't say enough great things about the reporting with Agora Pulse. I feel like that is my job security every month. My clients aren't that active on social media, which is why they have me manage their profiles for them. And when they get that report, it verifies that they're making a good investment.
The metrics downloads are so simple and easy to read, and it really helps me show where we are doing things right on social and where we need to improve.
So I think one of the main reasons why we decided to move to Agora Pulse is because it's a more comprehensive, integrated tool for all of our marketing needs. So rather than what we have had to do historically with Sprout, which is use certain parts of that platform that work really well and then supplement it with other outside tools, by moving to Agora Pulse, we were able to keep all of that into one technology platform, which is not only a time saver, but it also makes sure that our analytics and all of our reporting's on point because we're pulling all from the same source.
It's a really great platform for agencies. It makes it really easy to manage, but gives me really, really, really robust information that actually helps me develop better strategies for my clients and better plans of action.
So Scott, let's focus on agencies for a moment. What are some of the mistakes that you see agencies making when they're trying to communicate the kinds of things that we're talking about, where they're trying to communicate social media ROI to their clients?
I think a lot of agencies struggle as it relates to how do you take the data and develop the right insights and action steps to really optimize. And I do believe that like if you're a social if you only do social, right? Then I believe that you spend enough time qualified to be able to capture the data to develop insights off of. But if you're doing email marketing, social media, display ads, network, paid, organic, it's very hard to be able to take your community building efforts and really dive in deep into like the organic social media KPIs and reporting. Honestly, like the videos that you just played in the pre-roll, right? I think is like exactly what we're talking about
Yeah.
today. And I think like tools like what Argo, like it is it allows people like us to be able to verify the data ultimately. But what I find interesting is the do you think about it like from a data perspective? I think a lot of the trouble is like, do I do it annually? Do I do it quarterly? Do I do it monthly? And like, am I looking week over week, month over month? And I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think a lot of people struggle with like what could be best practice and how to do it.
Yeah, in fact, the last, agency owner in that video in Poplizio, I was just interviewing her yesterday, I think, and we were talking about her approach, which is to, show month over month, but also understand the trend line over several months. That way, if there's an aberrant month, up or down, it doesn't skew that result. And of course, you're right. Having a tool like Agorapulse is a huge benefit to any agency. She's using it for all of her clients. It's one-click reporting. You go in at the month and you can have it emailed to you, but you can go in, you click a button and generate the report. And we integrate with Google Analytics, and we put full UTM parameters on every single link that's shared, even in comments and direct messages, including a unique UTM parameter for that specific link. So we can tie all the ROI in. So
Right.
if you have a tweet that all of a sudden drives $1,500 worth of business, like you did with Manny's, you'll see that reflected in Google Analytics, and you'd see that reflected if it's an e-commerce, of course, and you'd see that reflected in your Agorapulse reporting, which that's exactly what you want to be able to show a client. Here's what we did for you. Not just a Google Analytics report that says, how much money or revenue or activity came from a particular social channel, but you could pin down the specific tweet, the specific video, who did it, when. So I'm wondering though, because we've talked a couple times of how things have changed, right? It used to be, you could create a Facebook business page and you could get all kinds of fantastic reach. How has your approach changed then over time where you're trying to demonstrate social media value? These platforms have changed. Members measurement capabilities have changed. How have you evolved?
I mean, we have to evolve as the platforms evolve, honestly. So as the platforms evolve, we'll keep evolving, but the community building terminology, that verbiage has really evolved for me because I was so ingrained on trying to explain to people having more followers is good, or having people that engage with your post is good, and having a video that gets 1,000,000 organic views is amazing. And it was hard for other people to really understand that. But once I started using the word community building, that has allowed everything else that we do to bucket up to that sort of ROI. And then if you do community building the right way, you'll be able to monetize it essentially because you have the right customers. So I think that has evolved for me a lot.
Yeah, completely makes sense. I'm wondering if you could share a story. Some client that you've worked with and you effectively communicated ROI, the right language for the right stakeholder, and maybe it saved that client relationship or there was some other, really beneficial impact. Do you have any stories like that you could share?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you think about, we worked with a client and they asked us to do one of the most impossible things. Can you get us 100,000 followers organically? And
On a Friday night.
I was like, "You do know that's a very tall ask?" The answer is most likely not, but this is social media and you never know. So funny enough, we tried, and 7 months into the strategy, we had one video that went mega viral on Facebook Reels,
Wow.
and that one video earned us 100,000 new fans. And all of a sudden, the CMO of the company, I think, was shocked that it happened, but it goes to show you that it can happen for any brand at any time, and one post can change everything for your business, good or bad, but we'll stay on the good topic for now.
Right, right. So I'm wondering how then you translate some of this activity into reports or briefs. How are you communicating all this to your stakeholders, to clients?
So we take the hard data, right? Very similar to what you guys would produce from a reporting standpoint. And then the insights is really what explains the why, but also, um, depending on the reporting internally for a company that I was just referring to, we were able to track through their attribution reporting and a lift in sales during that time period of when our video went viral. So we're able to connect those dots back with the right reporting structures in place to be able to qualify and validate the actual ROI that translates not only from your social growth, but attributed to sales as well. So if that's the ultimate way for us to connect those dots at that level to be able to communicate the effort not only on the channel growth and the brand awareness that we're achieving, but also the sales connection through attribution reporting.
Got it. Have you found any benefits from AI in terms of generating insights when you've got all this data to look at?
No, so I use ChatGPT a lot. I'm a big ChatGPTer. And so what I will do for me personally is when we get like an insights report, right? I can then pull data then into like taking that into like actionable next steps or at least recommendations. So look at it for opportunities essentially. There's also I haven't found anything that's AI driven that's like feeding insights. And I'm not sure what you think if you know of anything about a tool like that.
Yeah, there's nothing yet that's great that's going to be automated, like an
Yeah.
operator kind of a thing. But what works really well, I've found, is when you use ChatGPT or Gemini, and what I particularly love to do is drop in the data. So you got a spreadsheet of results, whatever those mean. It could be any marketing channel, whatever it is. Drop in the results and then drop in what you would have shared as insights as a report for that particular client. And then ask the AI, what did we miss?
Mm,
What do you see in the data that we didn't talk about in the report? That you
I
think we
love
should
that.
surface to the client. Maybe to find something, maybe it won't,
Right.
but time and time again, everyone I talk to in AI who's really deep into AI, they're discovering that this is one of the superpowers of AI, is to find the things that we as humans might miss
Mm,
because we just don't have the capability to absorb, 1,000 lines of a spreadsheet and
mm,
really comprehend it.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
and I'm
folks
gonna
listening,
take
yeah,
that
give that
back.
a try. Do.
Yeah, no, for
And it
sure.
works for text, it works for reports. I was interviewing Mark Schaefer yesterday, and, we were talking about his new book, Abundance, and, is that wait, let me make sure I've got it right. I've got it right here. Audacious. Sorry, Mark, I said it wrong. Audacious: How Humans Win in an AI Marketing World. And he was telling me that he had the manuscript done, and he hadn't used AI to write it. It's just Mark's thoughts. But he took the manuscript, dropped it into Gemini and ChatGPT, and
Mm,
asked that question: What didn't I talk about? What should I have talked about in this book that I didn't?" And both AIs came back and said, "You should have talked about measurement." And he is like, "Wow, that's crazy because I had a whole chapter on measurement that I dropped, and
wow.
because I wasn't going to include it." And the AI convinced Mark Schaefer, who's written 11 books now, to reinsert a chapter he'd already written. So fantastic use case for AI. Scott, any final piece of advice for agencies listening who've maybe struggled to demonstrate the ROI of the social media work that they're doing for clients?
Yeah, I think the best way to do it is just simplify it. You can bucket social media ROI into 2 buckets, sales and community building, and then everything else will tentacle depending on the situation and the context. So I think if you can keep it at those 2 levels, it's very easy to communicate the ROI.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Scott. This has been an awesome conversation. I hope folks have really allowed it to sink in and again, go back and listen to it again if you need to. But if they've got more questions for you, Scott, maybe they want to reach out and they want to connect, where should they go?
Yeah, they can reach us on, they can reach me, either through LinkedIn and or through our website at www.freshcontentsociety.com.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Scott. Thank all of you for listening. We will, as always, have all the links in the show notes below. So you don't have to go searching for Scott on any particular channel. It's down below. That's all the time we've got, though, for today. Please Don't forget to find us on Apple or Spotify, Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition. Drop us a review. Let us know what you thought about this topic, this episode, what you'd like to see in a future episode. I'll read every review. Let me know what you think. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.